Right. All right. Hey, welcome everybody. It's George at New Geometry. I'm super excited today. I know I've mentioned in a few videos that we might get Frank Chester on here. I've done about, I believe, 6 videos on the subject and sent Frank the first video that I did a while ago. And that was about 2 months ago. And Frank and I have been communicating a little bit back and forth through those videos. So here we are. We finally got Frank on and super excited to have you here, Frank. Frank, of course, is the discoverer of the 7-sided form, the Chestahedron. And he's done such amazing research in his videos throughout the years, especially around the human heart and how it related to the center of the earth. So yeah, Frank, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going great. Thank you for arranging this interview. I'm looking forward to it, George.
Great. You were just mentioning before we were on that viewers have something to look forward to. Frank was just working on a video about the heart, right? In the Chestahedron?
Yeah, it's not on YouTube yet, but it will be soon. And I'll let George know, I'll let you know when it is on. And it's all about the heart. And the question basically about the videos set around whether the heart is a pump or the heart isn't a pump, or is it both, or is it none of the above, or what is the heart? Because if you keep saying it isn't a pump, well, then what is it? And so my video is kind of looking at that aspect of the heart.
Yeah.
But it's based on geometry. See, it's based on geometry. It's not based off my subjective or a sentimental look of the heart. It's based on a lawful construction of movement in space through geometry.
I think that was the beautiful thing, that you did find a geometric structure that had a relationship to the heart, and you were actually able to construct both chambers out of that Chestahedron form and create this volume on the both chambers of the heart there, or the left and right ventricle of the heart.
Yeah, the Chestahedron is basically the left ventricle of the human heart. Okay, and so as far as the right side, the other ventricle, okay, not much has really been done, because when you dissect the heart and you cut off the right ventricle, it falls on the floor like a napkin. Yeah. So it's not really like the left, because the left is a real muscle where the right isn't. So I have now started to study the right seriously, and it's going to be very interesting, I think. It's really the first geometry look at this very loose, flexible series of thin muscles.
Oh, that's so cool. And it's amazing. When you started doing this, did you have any idea that you would be discovering the human heart when you first found the Chestahedron? Like, just describe a little bit about how that even came about.
Well, yeah, I had no idea. I wanted to find the Chestahedron in the world. I wanted to know where it was. And so I looked, first thing I looked at were crystals, and of course, I discovered that the Chestahedron is a vortex. Well, crystals don't vortex. They just grow up, they go back and forth, back and forth, but they never twist, okay? Mm-hmm. So it took a while to find that, because it looked like a crystal to me. And then the next thing I tried was to go to look at plants. Yeah. Okay, and so they do twist. They do have vortex movement in them. And the closest I came to the Chestahedron was the rosebud. Hmm. But I studied the path curves of the rosebud and the relationship to the Chestahedron, and it wasn't, I've never found it in the plant world or in a bud. So the next thing I went to was animals. Okay, and so what I had found was that it led me to the human being, because this is an organization, an organ. That's where I found it, as an organ in the, which I found in animals, and I also found in human being. Mm. But the most accurate was the human being. Very exciting. That took me about 3 years to do before I knew that it was a heart. And then, if you look at the Chestahedron, it doesn't look like a heart at all. It's all edges and faces, points, vertices. But when you put it into an organic shape, it's so similar, you can't hardly deny it.
Yeah, well, here's the Chestahedron for viewers who, haven't seen an image of it before. Well, this is a seven-sided shape with the triangle at the bottom, equilateral triangle. Now, I think something you're saying there that's really interesting about your study of crystals, and this is something in my recent video I was talking about with the quasi-crystals, which was like a forbidden structure, because it wasn't following the regular rules of crystal growth, which is cubic. And you finding this phi-based kite shape and incorporate it into the form somehow seems to have some sort of relationship to that vortex description in some way, because the crystals, they don't twist like that, like you were just saying, the regular cubic crystals. So was there any relationship to how you think phi and life kind of relates to your process of discovery, having this incorporated into this form?
Well, the flower of life, the seed of life, these relationships to circles, okay, was really what inspired me, okay, about the five and the enfolding of the five into three kites, okay. All of that was all kind of related to the sacred geometry that was found in the seven-sided form, and that's really the point that I came to of where this form was found in the world and how it relates to all the other forms. So the flower of life is really important to me.
Yeah, totally. And some of my work, I've shared pictures with you and some of the videos. I talk about how I found the way to kind of integrate the Chestahedron into the flower of life with those phi-based circles. Maybe I'll just call up that slide real quick, Frank, since I did put a few together, just so we could show that. And I'll show the Chestahedron and the Decatria, just so the viewers can check some of this out here too. So there's the Chestahedron. And you found the dual form too, the Decatria, which is the 13-sided form. And that's what it would look like inside the Chestahedron. Maybe we'll come back to that in a sec. But here was the seed of life that Frank was just talking about, the 6 circles around the one. So if you took out these red circles in the middle, you'd have these blue circles, and that would be your seed of life, your regular seed of life, drawing 6 circles around that one. But I've incorporated that red circle, which is the phi relationship between the red and the blue, and then that allowed to create the Chestahedron shape. So this is actually 7 Chestahedrons here that you could see kind of stacked together like this form here. That's what they would look like standing up. So that was just something that I think that relates to the phi and the seed of life. Definitely something I've been interested in. And this would just be the whole pattern of the fruit of life or flower of life built on that same formation. But this really, Frank, I didn't realize it at the time, but this was inspired, when we first got on our first phone call together, you told me about this drawing that was in your book. You said, go check this one out. And I was puzzled over this for a while because years ago I saw it. I was like, I don't even know what's going on there. And then finally, you had those same phi-based circles within this red and blue circles that I've done them in this drawing, just like that. When you discovered the Chestahedron, this came about afterwards?
Yes, afterwards. I was trying to find from a piece of clay where the geometry was underneath it. And in that process, I came up with this, but this was after my discovery quite a while.
Yeah, so your process, being a sculptor, right? That's your main profession and teacher of sculpting for many years. Right?
That's right. Yeah, I taught school. I taught elementary school, high school, and college for 32 years. So I had a lot of a teaching experience behind me, but no geometry.
That's so amazing to me, though, Frank. When I hear that, like, you often say like you didn't really know platonic solids till you were really like in your 60s or something like that, right? And they didn't really cover any
Oh, I
sacred geometry stuff at all in all those years.
well, I went to the one of the finest art schools in the nation. It's Cranbrook Academy of Art, and absolutely zero geometry, nothing. I went to the best school,
That's
nothing.
amazing.
So the I did have geometry in high school. It's the only place I had geometry in high. It was in high school, and the teacher gave me an F. I failed geometry, and the reason I think mainly why I failed it is because I was really good at drawing cartoons. The guy caught me drawing a cartoon of him, and he says, "You're the last person that's ever going to be able to use or need geometry, so I'm failing you." So I didn't believe him. Sure enough, he failed me.
Wow, you proved him wrong.
Yeah, but another thing is I did take mechanical drawing in high school,
Uh-huh.
and they still didn't teach platonic solids. They taught top, front, side, isometric, oblique, all these kind of different things, which I really enjoyed, but nothing like this. No geometry.
So that's for 60 years or so. So what ignited, like what, can you just describe a little of the process that ignited the, I know you have the connection of finding the
Yeah,
seven form to Rudolf Steiner a little bit, but what else behind that story? Share that too, but whatever else might come up, please.
well, I went to Rudolf Steiner College in California after I retired from. I was 60, and I went back to the school, and what happened was that there was a woman that was teaching Platonic forms, and I said, "My gosh, I wonder what I like forms, of course. I want to find out what they were." And sure enough, here we go. I mean, I always knew what a cube was and a sphere. I mean, absolutely, but I never knew there was anything behind any others. I didn't know a dodecahedron. I didn't know any of that. So she introduced it, and what happened was is that she introduced the cube, which has 6 sides, and then she introduced the octahedron. It had 8 sides. Well, between 6 and 8, there's got to be a 7. I said, "Where's the 7?" And the lady said, "There's no such. There is no 7." And I said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, does it? You know, between 8 and 6, there should be a 7." And she said, "No, nothing." And so she gave me all these researches that were done, you know, in geometry books saying it's impossible.
Hmm.
So I said, "I'm going home and I'm going to try to figure this out." And that was the whole start of geometry in my life when I was 16. Was that question.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to draw an icosahedron. I didn't know how to draw a dodecahedron. I didn't know how to do that.
It was just from that lecture that kind of opened the doorway for you
That
to,
was it.
wow, that's amazing.
That was it. That's what the lady said. Now, I was always wanted to retire and do my art, and I knew I was going to, but I thought I'd just take a science class for fun. So that was Goethean science, which I took, and that got me going. That really got me going. I really liked Goethe, and then I was introduced to Steiner, and of course, they know that has nothing to do with Platonic forms, but the woman who came in to teach that did.
Mhm. Well, then it sounded like your sculpting abilities, though, just kind of, and the mechanical drawing that you'd done earlier, just then were enough to kind of move you through the process as the forms worked with you.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, the reason that I found the Chestahedron and no one else has in the history of geometry, and here's the reason. The reason is because I did not discover it through straight lines. I did not discover it mathematically. I discovered it artistically.
Mhm.
So I approached the problem artistically, and that's if I had discovered it, if I had started mathematically, I'd have never found it. That's why it's never been found. It's because it was found artistic. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. But then you followed up with it, though, to
Oh,
then
I did.
find
Yes.
how it fit with the other patterns that existed, right? You made the
Yeah.
other connections.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Chestahedron started out in the first year. I mean, it came out okay. I had a guy come over who also was an artist. He came over to my house, and I was working on, and he said, "Well, what's that over there in the corner?" And I said, "Well, I'm working on a seven-sided form." And he went over and looked at it, and he said, "If I had gotten to this point, I would have quit." I didn't quit. I was having too much fun.
What did it look like at that point?
Well, I had 10 sides.
Oh
Uh,
no, you're a little far off from
yeah, I
saying.
had 10 sides. And not only that, but I found out that the Chestahedron basically has 46 triangles. I'm not sorry, 42 triangles. And I put 42 triangles together and they made the seven-sided form, the first one. And of course, then my goal was to have equal surface areas, which I got eventually. Okay, but the faces are, they're two different polygons, and platonic forms, they only have one face that's a polygon. It's all the same, but the Chestahedron has two, so it's not a platonic form. But it was interesting enough that it had equal surface areas that platonic forms have.
Mhm.
And that was encouraging to me.
That took a lot of research to figure out how
Oh,
to
yeah.
make that.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was so hard. I'm working on this for 22 years.
I know, but you know, the amazing thing is like all the other discoveries you must have found along the way, besides just working on the chip, all the paths it took you on. Because when you see some of your lectures, all the other discoveries that you share about how it fits inside the cube and how you can rotate it and it changes to the Chestahedron and you know how the
Yeah.
icosahedron connects and all the other forms, you kind of took you through a journey of everything related to sacred geometry.
It really did. And what those other discoveries were is what's keeping me going to this very day, because I'm still discovering. In fact, there's no end to it. I mean, I can just continue to find these forms. Okay, but I couldn't research them. And the reason I couldn't research them is because I had the seven to deal with, and that was the first discovery. And I could get sidetracked and start, going off to this side or that side. I didn't do it. And it was hard to not do that, because some of these forms are fantastic and they have new things inside that we've never seen. And I'm just so happy that you are the first person that has really taken on geometry, to me, and the new direction it has to go. Okay, you're the only one. Now, other people come along and they've done a little work with it, whatever, but not like you. I mean, what you've done is amazing. I was praying there would be somebody come along that would look at geometry in a new way, and you are.
Oh,
That's why I'm so happy about being on this program, because to encourage you and to have you encourage other people, there's so much out there that can be done that's not stuck on this old history. The old history is over. It's there for one purpose, and that's to learn from it, but not to continue to make it different colors or different, different positions, or all that stuff is over.
yeah, that's really that's encouraging. I really appreciate you saying all that, Frank. Yeah, I mean, I do have quite a passion for. You don't actually go and looking or trying to find the things like I'm going to find this. It starts to reveal itself, and the discoveries go. You have an open mind and open heart, and ask the right questions, and don't give up. You know, that's what I find is you keep working at it, and the mysteries continue to reveal themselves. And I can experience what you're saying. It just never ends. You know, it really just continues on and on and on. I
Yeah,
must
let
say,
me something I just remembered.
yeah,
One of my instructors told me what you have to do is ask a question, okay, and then after that you have to ask a better question, and then after that you got to ask a better question. I said, "No, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. If you ask a question, you need to get an answer, and the answer leads to a better question. Not one question after another question after question. That's no endless. That's too expansive. That's just going out into the stars. Okay, we don't need to do that. We need to get an answer, and that leads to a better question."
yeah, that's right. That's definitely, yeah, definitely. It's but you know, you don't have much more time to revel in that awesome answer because right on the heels of it is another question that keeps it going. you know?
That's right. And those are the questions that we need to ask about sacred geometry,
Mhm.
is that new question should lead to a new answer. Okay, and that answer goes back to the history of Platonic forms and all whatever in a new way. But if you keep asking the stuff in the old way without a new question, you're stuck to continue to produce everything that's been done in the past. But we need to go beyond that. We need to go into the future with these forms, because that's where it is. It's not in the past, it's in the future, which is now. And that has to be taken care of with new questions and what you're doing.
Oh yeah, new perspectives, new ways of looking at things for sure. That's
Yes,
really exciting.
that's
I'll
right.
say, Frank, I mean, your book that you, the new geometry, a new sacred geometry, one of the first books I had on sacred geometry, it was really set the tone for my passion and interest in it. You know, first of all, constructing forms, it got me motivated to start to create and do the drawings. So big thank you to you and that inspirational way. You were just shocked when I first contacted you that I was even out there building chestahedrons for years before I even contacted you and showing
Yeah.
you images and all that. So you didn't even know how impactful you had been in my life and many other people's, I'm sure.
No, I had no idea. And no, in fact, when the first time you called me, I said, no, I don't have any interest in answering your question. And so you were very cautious. I understand, I understand, I understand. And then I don't know how long later, months or whatever, you contacted me again, but you did it in a different way. And none of that, you were persistent. I knew you were really interested because you called twice, okay?
Yeah.
The first time I discouraged, which I usually do, but you were persistent. And you are now. Look at now.
Yeah, I'm way
There's no
into it.
stopping you, George.
The Decatria was really special to me, you know, because the way you laid that out for me after our first call, it was like, okay, well, I have the choice. Can I go looking for the Decatria? You didn't give me the net. So am I gonna try and figure this out? You gave me a couple hints. You got to push the edges in. And I was like, what does that mean? 2 days later, I'm sending the Decatria things. I sent maybe 5 images or a couple emails. I was on a roll and I was like, oh my gosh, he's not responding. Maybe I totally scared him off or something. And then all of a sudden you called me up and you were just shocked that that I got the Decatria.
That was great. I didn't have to give it to you.
And that was so exciting.
Okay, see, this is what I found. If I give away something, okay, it takes away your aha. It takes away your drive to try to find an answer. Instead of getting the answer, most people say, all right, he gave me the answer. Okay, now what's next? Okay, I didn't give you the opportunity to say what next. I gave you the opportunity to find out what I said would be helpful in answering what's next.
Mhm.
It worked with you. Lots of times it doesn't work. That's
Yeah,
okay.
well, that was really special because you know what it did for me, and I think it made the Decatria felt like it was I had a connection to it, a real deep relationship to it.
Well, you actually found it yourself.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, of course, you gave me a few hints that helped, but
No, but that's where I get hints too. There's nothing wrong with hints.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, so that was probably early on in our conversations, and then we went on to start to really dive into exploring the whole Earth. Uh, let's put a couple of those images up, Frank, because we
Sure.
can take a look at those too. So people have a few things to view here. I didn't set this up like a typical presentation, but you know, another part of Frank's work with the Chestahedron was not only working with the human heart as he described, but also connected to finding the core of the earth in relationship to the flower of life. And the Chestahedron sitting within the center of that would create a cube in the middle that would give you the core of the earth, a relative size of the core of the earth, fairly accurate to like 99.85% or something like that. So these are a couple sculpts, and it was so funny for me because like every video I did, Frank, on that, I did a video, and then all of a sudden you'd send me this awesome picture just after the video. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go back and do another video because now I have this awesome picture, or this awesome picture with the cube around the Earth and the Chestahedron. So we explored that one a lot, and that one was really a lot of cool mysteries and kind of cool adventure that I felt we shared in together on things you had found and geometry drawings that I was doing and finding and kind of overlapping those together. And I think we made some cool connections on that one.
We did.
Yeah.
Really did. We really did.
What decided you, what even led you to put the cube, I mean the Chestahedron in the earth? What was the main, like, you know, you led to the heart and that took you down that path. Now we're working with the earth.
Yeah, that's a good question you asked. What happened is that while I was at this course that I was taking, some of the things that Rudolf Steiner had to say, oh, that's all fine, what is this? But then he said one thing that was very interesting. He said that in the core, in the earth, okay, in the earth, there is somewhat of a pyramid.
Mhm.
I said, oh my God, is that right? It's something like a pyramid. Well, mine looks like a pyramid, a little extended. So I thought, well, the pyramid would be a tetrahedron probably. And so I put the tetrahedron in there.
Yeah.
And he gave that one points of the tetrahedron would hit, the South Pole. And the other three, okay, would hit 3 points up in the south.
Mhm.
So I put it in there, and the tetrahedron would rattle around. It didn't fit. No, I'm not kidding you. It did not fit.
Mhm.
I thought, well, I'll put the tetrahedron in and see what that did. And I put it in the tetrahedron into the sphere, okay, and all 4 points touched. I
Yeah.
could not believe it. And those 3 points at the top put basically where he said it would touch. And so what I did is I put one of them in Japan. That's where he said one would be in Japan. So when I put the Chestahedron in, I made sure that the apex, which is the South Pole, was at the South Pole, and that one of the corners of the Chestahedron was in Japan. And when I did that, all the other 2 points touched islands or touched Earth, okay, in the real Earth, the sphere I had of the Earth. And from then I spun the Chestahedron, and I realized that was where the Aurora Borealis comes out. That's the circle. And that was a cone that would run straight down to the South Pole. And it just started on and on and on. I found more and more about this. I found that, that there was that it fit the flower of life, and that there was a cube in the center, and there could be a sphere put in the center of that cube. It just went on and on and on. Most exciting time was to work with the earth. So basically, if this is the heart geometry, it's also in the earth.
Oh, that's
And that's what's amazing.
yeah, that is totally beautiful. It's got like a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Here's the Chestahedron for the viewers. You could see the upper triangle. These would be the points in contact with the Earth, and there it is down at the South Pole down here at the apex of the Chestahedron. And the cones that you're mentioning are really cool. I would recommend viewers check out a few of Frank's videos in how he puts the cones into the Chestahedron and how perfectly they fit. And also how it relates to the heart, I guess, going back to that as well, is that I know you wrap up the heart in a cone type of shape as well. And that fits in as well, because when you open up the heart, when you open up those papers and spiral the bands, the myofibril bands going around.
Yes.
That same cone as well, Frank, or is that
Yes, that's what you just mentioned is really important. The cone is really very important, because that cone that goes into the center of the Chestahedron and hits the circle at the top, okay, if you spin it, that triangle turns into a circle, and that circle is exactly the size of that opening of the cone. And I found out that that opening in relationship to the rest of the Chestahedron is exactly the size of the mitral valve that enters the left ventricle of the human heart. And nobody knows why the mitral valve is that size. And it's just, this is too much. And then if you take the cone and you extend it out further than the chestahedron,
Yeah.
the chestahedron will fit in the same cone on the outside. So that means the outside of the chestahedron and the inside of the chestahedron, cone-wise, are parallel.
Oh.
No, who would have ever thought that?
That's amazing. You're just working with paper and models and rolling them up in different ways, and then you're making these incredible discoveries.
Yes, and I'm doing it with my hands.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've never used a computer on any of this to find any of this. I never used a computer, just used my hands. Okay, and my hands, what's so interesting about my hands is that working with the hands goes into a memory, okay, that I am not losing. I'm keeping that memory. That discovery I still have in me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I need to pull it out because of certain things that you've said. That's, oh my God, look what George found. And I take that information back and I check it out, and it's amazing what you're doing.
Well, I mean, I think what you're saying about working with the hands, and I think your inspiration of showing all your sculptures in your book that got me inspired, it got me into working with my hands to make the cutouts, do the folding up of the papers. I don't certainly do as many sculpture as you do, but making this double star chestahedron, like
That's sculpture. That's called an aerial sculpture.
Yeah.
In the world of sculpture, that's called an aerial sculpture. That is sculpture.
Yeah, so this is just cocktail straws and thin wire running through, but that's all I needed, because I cut out the dimensions, everything else. I had two chestahedrons and pulled them apart and saw that this edge connected down to here, and then created this kind of Penrose tile version, because these are Penrose tile shapes. And there's the line of the chestahedron, two of them together. And I just discovered this form, this rhombic form, out of this. It was the underlying form.
Okay, so what I'd like to tell the people who are viewing your program is I never saw that. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I was shocked when I saw that George had done that. I'd never done that.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was so cool because Frank, when you're working with the hands, like you're saying, it lives inside you, and the memory.
Yes.
You just start doing it. You don't. The body has its own memory. There's some other force takes over there. And then I said, well, hey, if I take 8 little ones of those and put them together, well, you could basically create a long version of 8 star chestahedrons put together to create this same form. And then you go on to discover how it's inside the cube, just like that, with the little window looking at the same form. So working with the hands and doing those sculptures is just, and you don't have to be a pro. You don't have to be go to the best school. You just cut out the paper and it will start working on its own. Here's the chestahedron in the sphere. So just to go back to that Earth again, this is kind of what it would look like in there. And this band, picture the equator, chestahedron's running pretty much close to the center, right along there. And then Frank put the flower of life over top of that. So let's just show that again, or found the place in the middle of where the flower of life integrated into that. This was really exciting, because this was probably your big way that you connected the chestahedron to the flower of life, because that's such an iconic pattern, of sacred geometry. Everything can be contained in that, often people will say. So what then, how'd that?
Well, the flower of life the flower of life that you keep mentioning in your program is so important, because the flower of life is the basis, okay, of all geometry. It's the first one that comes in. Every child could make it. It never needs any measurement. It comes out perfect. It shows numbers that the mathematicians have no end of. They had a root 3, root 2. There's no end to numbers. They've gone over 2 million counts and they still haven't found the end. And yet you can make it perfect with 2 sticks and a string. And I mean, this is how important this is. I don't know how long that geometry's been around, but I would say it was here the first time a person do a line in the sand.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally ancient. There's many other geometers who put up all the images of where it's been found in all sorts of cultures and traditions and artwork all over the world, inscribed in various different places, ancient temples and sites. I think this, for me, this is really, this phi base circles like you did here with this really is a key important part, because without that, in some of my videos I've talked about with the icosahedron and the decahedron and the chestahedron even, any of these structures that are built on phi, in order to draw them, as Frank will say, lawfully, right, that they're accurately done as a template, a blueprint, that the sacred geometry contains that, incorporating these little phi base circles, meaning that the blue to red is in phi relationship, is opened up the new geometry for me in more ways than I could say. But my next video is going to go way into that even more, because I'm just blown away by the basic flower of life pattern with this integrated circles. Is just really been revolutionary.
Well, see, George, the very thing you're discovering here with this phi and all these circles and their relationship to each other, okay, is the life of the human being. We are based on this geometry. The body, and wherever you look at it, is all about this. And then you discover that's in animals, and then you discover it's in plants. It's everywhere.
It's bringing, the way the phrase keeps coming up to me with those phi base circles, it's really bringing the life to the flower of life. I don't know why that one.
It is. See how important it is, and you discovered that. Okay, and you are not going to be satisfied with just doing the same old stuff that 99% of the people who do geometry with the flower of life are doing. You're not happy with that anymore. I'm sorry, that's over. But you always use it as a foundation. It's something that reinforces what you find.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? It keeps introducing totally new things. I mean, Frank, I can't even, I'll send you my next video. I'm working on it right now, what it's showing me. And it's totally looking at all the same forms that have been in there in a totally new way. And it's mind blowing to me. It's so cool.
Oh, just keep working, George.
Yeah, so cool.
There's no way stopping you, There's nobody's going to be able to stop you. Some people may come in and try to stop you because, oh, this guy's not accurate, or this guy, has no foundation. He's not any trained, he's not a mathematician. It's all bull.
Well, people, the geometry is the teacher here. I mean, you can't argue with it. And I'm really thankful that I work with that program, because I'm able to check things really accurately. I was sending you a lot of images, and I was showing you the lengths and the images and making sure everything, I could double check it. The amazing thing, there's no mathematics in that program. It doesn't tell me the length of any line. All I can do is figure out if lines are equal between images. And if I know what phi is, if I divide the line in phi, I'll know that I'm on target, that it's accurate, because I know that the divine proportion's in that. So yeah, it's really, really exciting. So yeah, Frank, I don't want to go on too long for the viewers. I'm sure we can continue on and on and on. Just, maybe some final thoughts we can just maybe riff on, just like what is, I love the part you're talking about the human body and how the phi in relation to the human body. What about consciousness? What about sacred geometry in relationship to evolution in the human consciousness? Like, what have you been your relation or thoughts about? Do you have anything to say kind of in a bigger picture sense in regards to that?
Well, I think one of the approaches to my work has helped, and this would help if everyone would do this or would realize this, is when we're born, the first thing we do is we imitate. Okay, we imitate the mother, we imitate all her gestures, her gait, the way she moves her hands and so forth. We imitate, and that's the first way we learn, which is very, very important. We all must imitate. Okay, so then after we are through imitating, okay, we want to develop a little independence. Then the next thing we do is we innovate. So that was, we take our imitation and we change it a little bit, okay? So At that time in life, about 12 years old, something like that, 13, I don't know. I noticed a difference in my students. I noticed that before that, they're very good two-dimensionally artists. Oh my gosh, their two-dimensional forms that they do and the colors they put together are unbelievable. They're, just as good as any modern artist.
Hmm.
But when they get to be about 12 or 13, all of a sudden it's gone. And what replaces itself is the third dimension.
Hmm.
They want to make everything three-dimensional like. They want to imitate like mad in their drawings. And they especially want to imitate the face and the human being and cars and rocket ships and all that kind of stuff. I did too.
Mhm.
So at that point of innovating is a higher stage of imitating. It's still imitation, but things have changed a little bit, okay? And they become innovative. And that's where 99% of the artists are today, is they're innovators,
Hmm.
okay? And that's a stage that we go through that we need to go beyond.
Hmm.
So the first thing that happens after innovation is imagination. Okay, so imagination has always been thought of as fantasy. No, imitation is much more structured than just going outside ourselves and drawing stars. Okay, so once we start to imagine, we start to have images. Imagination, there's image. Okay, it's right there. And when we get to an imagination, okay, then the next step that happens is that we get inspired.
Hmm.
Now, once we're inspired, okay, we can take our images and start to use them in a way to either make sense or not make sense or whatever, more artistic or more scientific or whatever. And if we go with our inspirations and we follow them, we reach the highest state, and that is intuition.
Hmm.
Intuition, okay, is not just some feminine thing that we associate with women or, hysterical or these kind of things. No, innovation is the highest level of creativity there is. And that is when we open ourselves up for influence that comes from our fellow men, fellow females, our belief system, whatever, wherever that intuition comes from, we have to be open to it.
Hmm.
And when we're open to the intuition, then inspiration develops even at a higher level. That leads to higher intuition, higher inspiration, higher imagination. And no more copying, no more innovation.
Hmm.
So that is probably the best thing to follow for yourself, no matter what you're doing. If you're developing new yo-yos, whatever you're doing, if you put that little process together, it will work. And so it doesn't matter if you do geometry. You can do that with writing. You can do that with filming. You can do that with making cookies.
Wow.
So I think that's the best I can leave you with. If I leave you with something that you can actually use, because I've found that so many people give lectures, and when the lecture is over, well, then what? There's nothing left back for somebody to do or to take up. They just like, oh God, I gotta wait to the next lecture, instead of taking something up that you saw. I mean, how many lectures do you have to go to? I have people that have been going to the same teacher and hearing his lecture for 30 to 40 years. What the hell? You can go to work after the first lecture.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what happened with you. You took the one lecture on the platonic solids, and that's all it took.
That was it. I never went back to school.
But that's just, Frank, thanks for laying all that out. That's just really beautiful. I mean, it's easy to remember the 5 eyes.
Yeah, it is easy to remember. It is.
Yeah.
I don't think that intuition is something that's fantasy. No. If you take intuition, which is the hardest one to get to, that's really hard, because unless you're inspired, okay, intuition will never come.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just imagination and this, which is fine, you need it, but you'll never get intuition until you get inspired. And George, you're inspired.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I think the openness that you mentioned is a huge part of it. You know, not being sure of having an answer and being okay not having an answer, being receptive and open to what
It's
might come.
That's right. And it's hard to live with and not having an answer, because if you don't have an answer, you don't have another question that's going to lead you in a direction that you need to go, where you're supposed to go. And you remember, all of us are here to go somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay. And not many of us wake up to that. And if the people who do wake it up to it, they're so lucky.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a gift. Anything that's holding you back from doing your work, let's say you've got something wrong with your left hand, or you got something with your right hand. The reason that you have these difficulties is because it's motivating you to work with them, because there's some reason that you need them. So all the difficulties that you run in life, whatever happens to you, the barriers that are set up, they're your gifts.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that is a radical transformation in consciousness. And you're making it
Yeah,
sound like
it
it's
is. It is unbelievable.
yeah.
Just think of it. All the people that are sitting around because they have a difficulty, they're sitting around because that difficulty is trying to help you. To help you. I don't mean if you have cancer, if you have Alzheimer's, whatever.
Mhm.
There's something behind it that you needed,
Mhm.
that you couldn't go on without it. Is
Yeah.
that amazing?
Yeah, that really is. That's
And I
fantastic.
found it in my own life. That's true. All my barriers. Why did I flunk geometry?
To get the F. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That well, Frank, yeah, I mean, there's so much more you could say to that, but I mean, I think leaving with the viewers just to contemplate that, I don't have to add a lot more because I think that adds such a beautiful summary and capstone to our conversation. And maybe down the road we'll have another. I don't know how it'll all work out, but look forward to Frank's video. I'm so thrilled to see that you're going to have a video coming out soon. Definitely, I'll be talking about that when it comes out, so my viewers can go over. Frank's got a YouTube channel out there, Frank Chester 7, I think maybe it might be. It's on my thing. You could subscribe to that. And also check out any of his old videos. You know, all the videos Frank said has always been someone just filming from the side, you know, or except for the Wonder of Seven. The Wonder of Seven video, I believe, and I'll put a link to that here. Is
That was set up. Yeah.
Frank was set up doing that one, and I think that does a great job of describing you know, 5 different segments. I think it was done in or something that talks about a lot of the things we've discussed here with Frank talking with all his teaching tools. So yeah, I really appreciate everybody chiming in, checking out what we have to say about this. I'm thankful to Frank for coming out and sharing all his inspiration and definitely sharing your inspiration, your intuition, and your whole journey with us. So thanks again, Frank.
Please ask me back. I would love to come back and talk to you again.
All right. Awesome, Frank. We'll be in touch too. So, all right. Thanks, viewers. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Love you all.
Yeah, I love you all too. All right. Bye-bye.